Hey, Brandon, what are we doing?
These are all the pranks for Bad Trip. We're going to rank them.
I like this one. I think this one is effective because, from the jump, it implicates the participant. He's the one to turn on the vacuum. And so, he has to get involved in the situation. So it really works for me.
Oh, I really love this. This really just draws you into the film. You're like, okay, this is gonna be a wild movie.
Yeah, this is an A for me. I find it difficult to get into the mind space of the person being pranked here. He says he's a plumber. He comes into this house and a guy pops out of a bathtub filled with toys. The situation just isn't super clear, and you're not going to get a great response out of it besides just shock.
Yeah, it's essentially just a jump scare in a comedy.
This stresses me out, and I don't really understand how this one was accomplished, but no matter what, she is scared for her life. She thinks someone else is going to come through that window chasing after him, and, if somebody bursts into your house through smashing a sliding glass door, that's gonna give you a heart attack.
Oh, 100%. She was terrified. She was hiding behind the wall, ready.
Yeah.
What would you say?
I feel like C. I feel like that amount of sort of effort. Surprise kicks it up a notch where you're causing property damage and not just popping out of a bathtub. Anybody can pop out of a bathtub. This is, for me, where this movie really starts to shine and sort of reveal its project, where, this is a typical scene out of any comedy from the last 10 years, and you just have real people in the background who are so fed up with it. You have people who, one, are watching him contaminate all of their smoothies, and they're disgusted by that, but they stick around through this entire conversation where he is ignoring everybody else in the juice bar and just focusing on this high school crush and having a very weird conversation with her. And then they still stick around when he sticks his hand in a blender. This, I think, has to be another A for me.
Yeah, 100%. It really just... when I saw it in the trailer, I was like, oh, this movie looks great. Yeah. This looks like a wild time. It's just going to be Eric Andre just pranking random individuals all day. Oh, shit. I enjoy it, but it almost feels out of place almost. Everything else is super it's just Eric Andre and maybe a few other actors messing around with some people in a scenario. This is they just do a flash mob. Yeah,
if you're sitting in this food court and a bunch of people break out into dance, that kind of disarms the weirdness of it because it becomes a thing that you understand and recognize. So yeah, this one might be more of a C for me, where I'm feeling fun. I enjoy the sentiment of it. The bit leading up to this with the wise old black man giving him advice, just really going along with it, and he's in love, that feels right out of a studio comedy. But yeah, I agree that it doesn't quite fit the mold that we're looking for here.
Concrete jungle, Texas albino, my pussy's on fire. Come on, New York, man, pizza.
This one, I gotta admit, didn't really hit for me. It wasn't outlandish enough, but also didn't really get great reactions from people. This is a thing that I probably did as a middle schooler, and people are just annoyed and not much else.
I completely see this almost just being a real event on a bus, on any public transportation. Yes. I used to ride a train into work for an internship. There was always just some guy yelling. This just seems just like real life.
I'll kill every one of you white motherfuckers if you snitch.
Oh my.
I like this one. It feels like a bit out of, what was that ABC show? What Would You Do?
Yeah.
And just no one does anything.
Yeah.
They're just oh.
You're immediately sort of poking holes in the social contract by just handing them $100 and saying, don't tell anyone. I genuinely loved how much when people encountered Tiffany Haddish in this movie, they generally just went along with it and were often on her side over anybody else in the conflict. So like anything that she's in is gonna be on the higher end for me.
Yeah, because she's just wild in these scenes and everyone just accepts it.
Yep.
They're just like, yep, I believe exactly what's going on.
I feel like this makes a great B.
Yeah, I agree.
I never forget a face.
Go.
Thank you for helping me escape.
This scene is just great.
This is
where the prison is...
This is the first S tier for me because you can tell that they're like building the prank as they go and like building off of his responses because he's so worried that he's going to get caught and get fired for helping her. They send a police officer by and he's asking about it, and then they send her by again and she will not leave him alone. She goes up and hugs him and he's just so nervous. Run, girl, you have to get out of here. He is incredible, and like this is the first one where like I knew this movie was something special.
I like this scene. It's a real dumb, just like one-off gag.
Yeah, this is very much one for the trailer, where like there isn't much beyond that, but you know, it is funny to see this person like assume that he's scamming her.
I would say like B tier because I enjoyed it, just like super one-off kind of gag.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
This one, I think, it kind of falls into the same territory as Running Through the House, where, like, he could be very nervous. She's still in a prison jumpsuit, and she's just, like, knocking stuff off of his desk, but his reaction is so cute of just, like, oh, well.
Oh.
These ones where they can show people interacting with both Eric Andre and Lil Rel Howery, and then later Tiffany Haddish. Those ones work for me. So, yeah, I think this is probably B as well.
Help me. Shit. Oh.
Get away, bro. Get away from it.
To see these people jump in and try to help and then eventually be like, no, you are beyond help, makes this one funnier than it might have been otherwise.
I don't know where I would put this. Do I put this with like the juice?
I don't know that it's... we have so many more to get through. I feel like this is another comfortable B.
Fuck the police. I'm gonna kill these motherfuckers.
Holy shit.
Yeah, rips the door off.
Yeah, that's incredible. Like, great physical comedy. But also the bit before where she's talking to that handsome cop and just
hitting on him.
Just like desperately wants to kiss him, is also hilarious. So like this one is full S for me as well.
Full S. Yeah, just everyone's reaction. The one dude in like the coffee shop, he just like, oh shit.
Yeah, there's one guy in there who like is not at all endangered by this, and so he's just gleeful, getting his like frozen yogurt, watching this lady rip the door off of a cop car and take off in it. Like, he's just having the best day of his life.
He's having a great time.
I'm serious about calling this guy an ambulance. He's not okay if he's
Fine, somebody needs to get me a fucking drink and chill out.
Shows up, he just like goes out onto the square dancing floor.
Yeah.
Comes back and just starts ordering shot after shot.
Yeah.
And eventually, you know, drinks from the thing that would get me the most at if I was in this bar was just him picking up the spill catcher and drinking it.
Yeah, I think the great thing about this particular one is they spend a lot of time there. So they're able to build relationships with the like regular bar patrons and staff. So, you know, it starts with him joining in the line dancing and there are some fears about like, we're the only black people here, but they're welcomed into this community. They also have parts of it where, he's getting drunker and drunker. I think this one also contains him going to the sort of like billiard section and like peeing on people, which, as we see in the end credits, does like result in them having to like pause the gag for a bit because he was legitimately about to get beat up by some dude.
Yup.
But then, the incredible going up on top of the bar, everybody trying to like talk him down, and then he falls off, crashes into a table, and everyone just jumps into action. Somebody's like, I'm a nurse, we're gonna get you help. Somebody else, when he says, I just need a beer, like valiantly hands him the beer in between spurts of projectile vomit. Like, there are just so many layers to this, and it shows how even amidst all of that chaos, people just want to help. This is like genuinely maybe my favorite of the whole film.
Yeah.
It's gotta be an S tier for me.
It's just such a great scene because it's just prank after prank after prank. You don't know where the prank's gonna end and when they're gonna just like move on.
Yeah.
You Maria?
No. My name is Will.
The drug-fueled trip through the grocery store, where there's just like, there's probably about like 20 different gags they do in it.
Yeah.
But it's just overall, it's just wild. Like, there's the one woman that's just threatening him. Just like, oh, if you get any closer, I will be punching you in the face. Like, they were just a nuisance in this grocery store, just yelling.
Yeah. I think this could get into the territory of like too much too fast, where like you just can't register any of it, so it doesn't make as big of an impact. But I also think it's super impressive that they're taking these ridiculous improvised actions that they're taking this grocery store and weaving in filmed sections that tie that into the story. I don't know where that puts this then.
I would kind of put it in the scenario of like C tier right here.
I feel good about
where
that.
It's like, it's funny, but also it's kind of like so much happening that there wasn't like one gag.
Yeah.
I like it. It's funny. It was a bit random because I feel like it's like super staged.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this was not actual people. I think they got people who are like, we're shooting stock footage for a boardroom. And then this just happens.
Yeah, it doesn't have a ton of impact for me. Like, I think it's a funny concept, but I don't know that it really goes anywhere because everybody is just kind of like, huh, this is a thing that's happening.
You may now kiss me.
Watching that, I was just like, wait, this is not what the line I was expecting.
Yeah,
I was expecting like a flash mob kind of like early 2000s YouTube video, but no.
Yeah, it's a good gag that like plays with both dream logic and the ridiculousness of that happening in front of real people. This also feels like who are all of these people at a random wedding? So like they might not have the biggest reactions because they're already just like pulled together for this wedding that's being filmed. But yeah, I would put it above the boardroom.
Yeah, I would go like C. It's kind of like in that nonsense territory of like the grocery store. But yeah, it felt just funnier than the boardroom.
The bit that sells this for me is them running away at the very end, being like, okay, we're about to be in physical danger, we have to leave now. And then still just like skipping off all happy because it's still a dream. So yeah, I think this one is probably the most successful of these three, but still probably only a B. This one, I think, can also get into the territory where it feels too much and that like the people watching it have to know that this is not really happening. And yet it's kind of magical that they still buy into it. The thing that really works for me about this is the fact that he goes back to get his phone. Like, that's what brings it into that really ridiculous territory where, like, you have got to be kidding me. So that is definitely a pro in the zoo.
It's definitely one of the most memorable pranks in this movie.
Yes.
I don't think you will be able to think about Bad Trip and be like, oh yeah, wait, there's a zoo scene?
Yes,
I'm sure you're going to remember the zoo
The scene will haunt you.
I kind of put it with the juice one.
Yep.
I don't know about you.
No, that
it's
feels
just
right.
so over there. Yeah, okay.
Like, it's not my favorite, but it is emblematic of the film, so it deserves to be an A.
I just want you to tell me where my car is.
Well, if I knew where your car fucking was, I would.
Would you?
Yes.
Would you really? Would you?
Yes.
I just don't know how they did it. This is the one it was like, oh, that's you, and they just have his picture.
Craig.
We're just like, who is this man?
Yeah.
Why did they get a picture of him?
He's not really necessarily going to buy in all the way because he knows he doesn't know those people. It helps that you have Tiffany Haddish there just like doubling down and making him get madder and madder. It's not the kind of prank where people are going to believe what's happening because they know for a fact that they do not know these people. This is a weird Photoshop. So like it does take it to that level of like, I don't know what's going on, but like I know there's no truth to this. So what is the truth to it? And like, what could this possibly be? And I don't think he goes to, this must be a prank show. And it must be some vaster conspiracy. It doesn't quite get into the realm of the really sincere reactions that you can get from people in some of these pranks.
I kind of honestly would put it with like The Buzz.
Oh, wow.
I was like, it's funny, but it's not like the best thing.
Yeah.
Hey, did you see these dudes? They come up in here because you know they got chicken drinking. The motherfuckers in tears.
I'm about to call you.
Did anybody here see which way these motherfuckers went?
Everything at this diner.
Oh my god.
Because she comes in, they come in, she comes back, like it's just a mess. Like there's the one woman at like the bar in the diner ready to just go fight. Like she is ready to help her get her car back.
Yeah. Yeah, something miraculous about this scene is that woman who is just like totally on the side of Tiffany Haddish and like whips her up even further and is like, yeah, go get him. I was reading a Q&A with the editor of the film and he was saying like this scene almost didn't make it because they didn't think there were enough reactions there, but then like they were finally able to isolate the different microphones that they had set up and found that woman and they were like, oh, this is a keeper. This is an S for me. Again, it has the layers where it builds and you get to see people interacting with sort of both parties. But the way that people rally behind Tiffany Haddish's character and like what violence enacted upon these dudes that they met earlier is hilarious to me.
It's just so good because like the first, like she comes in, hands the papers out to everyone and it's like, okay, everyone's just like, oh, okay. She's a little wild. Leaves. They come in. Everyone's like, wait. It's the dudes. I definitely throw that in S tier.
Hey, sir, can you get our dicks out of this thing? Hey, you know what we're gonna... Oh, God, he's got a knife!
From the second they introduced the finger trap, like I knew it was going to happen. I think they do take it some interesting places where they like go into a shop and a guy immediately pulls a knife on them. That's hilarious.
You can see Eric Andre's face like in that scene break character because as they like go in, they have the whole argument and then you just see the door open and it's just like, he's got a knife, go. Like I think they're actually scared for their like well-being, but they're still connected.
So yeah, this is one where like it kind of falls into the guerrilla territory where like the sheer ridiculousness of it feels like people would see through it, but you know, you have this golfer guy who's like willing to help for a second and then they just push it a little too far and he just like...
They call him like what, Harvey Weinstein? And then that's where he gets mad.
Turns and he is ready to end them with his golf club. Like he's about to do something really terrible on that golf course. And, you know, I think they get some great reactions out of people.
Yeah, I would put it in B with that.
Look at it.
You do need to look. It's your fault. It is kind of fucked up. You need to look at that shit.
Obviously, the crash was not filmed with probably people watching because safety. But I assume they just had this car flipped over, them inside of it, and they just left it there for a while until someone would just show up.
Or had somebody say like, oh my gosh, this car just flipped. Let's all go check it out. But it is a neat magic trick in the movie as you see this car explode, people rush over immediately, and then they crawl out of it. That is a nice moment, but I think the key point of this is that one guy who steps in to try to separate them and get them to stop fighting. Like, he is a genuine hero, and it was just a beautiful thing to watch his conflict negotiation skills and de-escalation. And then when Eric Andre is just sort of wandering back towards the car that just exploded and might explode more. And he's just like, yeah, no, I've done as much as I could. This is an S for me.
Oh, yeah, it's so good. Especially just the funniest bit about it is the guy who's separating them is just wearing a peace sign. Like, his entire personality is just, I'm making peace.
Yeah, you could not write that into a script.
You're in a bad place right now. You've talked to me for 5 minutes and you offered to suck my dick to kill you.
Yeah.
I mean, you know that's not right.
Right.
I like this one.
The humanity of it really elevates it, where you thought he was just gonna pick a fight with this dude, and because he's belittling the wars, I'll go to Vietnam. But he really reaches out, and he's like, everybody goes through stuff like this, and you just need to get back up on your feet. And this is not what you want to do. And the way that Eric Andre twists that around into oh yeah, I feel better now, made it a really sweet interaction. So yeah, this I think is an A for me.
I would 100% agree.
Look, man, you're my best friend, bro.
Oh, it's so sweet. Sorry.
I think the thing to point out here is yeah, you never see this in real life, and yet this happened to a bunch of people in real life, and they just went along with it. They filled in the blanks, and they were ready to respond as if they were in a movie, and I find that really endearing. I think this would fit in B for me, probably.
I'm stuck. I'm sinking.
Just a ridiculous scene because the door's just open and he's inside the porta-potty. I'm stuck.
Yeah. This is another great one where people are really trying to help, but they can only help to a certain extent. This one to me feels like they didn't really have the reactions that they wanted, because it kind of just cuts off, and it feels like there's a world in which it could be way more than it is given its premise. So for me, it's probably a D.
Yeah, I kind of agree. It just felt just random. It didn't really fit in with the ideas they were going with.
Please let me in. You have to in. Okay.
The next one we have is the guard, which I originally didn't want to include in the tier list because I assumed it was fully staged and the guard was just an actor. But you said otherwise. You said it's a real dude.
Yeah, so I think it's definitely edited in a way where it is kind of manipulated because his turn towards the end of the scene doesn't really make much sense. But in that editor's Q&A, he said yeah, that was a real guy. And for the most part, those are his real responses. But we did have to kind of manipulate it to get him to let Eric Andre in, because otherwise he was not going to do it. And I think, yeah, this one kind of suffers because you don't believe that it's genuine. And whether or not it is doesn't really matter when you don't feel it in the context of the movie.
Yeah.
So this one is probably on the lower end for me.
Yeah, I kind of put it with I'm trying to figure out where I would put it. Is it like an E, or is it like our first F? Because
I don't know that it's the first F. You have the bit with the coins.
Yeah, like it's funny, but
it's
it's just like when it got later in the scene, I was like, wait, this has to be staged.
Yeah, I
like
don't think that there's any one in here that I would consider an F. Like, it does not work as a bit.
Okay, agreed.
Like, it still has elements that work for me, but you're right that it doesn't really hold up to any of the others. This one is interesting to me because there's all of this chaos happening inside the gallery, and yet people continue to run around the gallery rather than just leaving. Like, they at some point accept that they're in this ridiculous situation and they're going to stay in that ridiculous situation. But I don't know that it reaches any high in a prank sense because it is so focused on wrapping up a lot of the plot elements of the film.
Yeah, it's just a lot of just like nonsense goes on, and that's just the prank. It's just he's getting beat up, and just he's trying to survive. I would kind of place it in like similar with the like grocery store.
Yeah,
where it's kind of like nonsense, but like kind of funny.
Help me! The cops won't get here in time!
What the hell you do to her? You better scare your ass back up that wall!
This is another one where I feel like it's emblematic of the film. Like, it is so many pieces of what this project wants to be, but it doesn't quite get into S tier for me because, like, they're clearly fishing for responses. Like, you're not getting that genuine of a reaction that you get from, like, the car crash or the bar. But it is still a lot of good reactions. And later in the credits, also hilarious when Tiffany Haddish is calling out people who were not participating and were just content to eat their fish tacos and let this man die. So again, like, kind of held back by some of the plot elements, but I think this works really well, and I would probably put this in A.
I was like, I agree, A. I just really like the one woman on the megaphone is like, what did you do to her? Like, she was on the side of drop him. Like, he wronged her. And it was acceptable.
And also the woman with the tactic of, like, surely there must be somebody who loves you. You've got family. It's like, this is my family. They fucked me over. I do not love them. And just like, please, you must have somebody who loves you because I do not know how to appeal to you beyond that.
Yeah, I definitely go A. It's just so ridiculous. Yeah, I wish like the people, I guess, were more scared that they were just about to see a man fall to his death. But I don't know if that's because like maybe they could see some rigging or something and they're like, okay, this might be staged.
Yeah.
I also don't know where it happened, so like maybe they recognized Eric Andre.
When you cry, you feel the better.
This one is really simple. But really effective for me. You know, by this point in the film, it's really been building up to a lot of these sort of like humanist responses from people and people just helping. And so, I don't know, it's really sweet to see these people like really scared at the blow up, and then immediately after they all band together and like console her. It's kind of at the top of the list for me, even though like it isn't that funny. I don't know if you would put it that high, and I'm probably fine putting it a little lower. But I was
gonna say like C, B, kind of in that range.
Probably where it belongs, but like in terms of impact it had on me, it's higher in my heart. So maybe we can settle on a B.
Okay, I can accept that.
I think we found our third link. Kitty. Kitty, to kitty. Meow, meow. Are you a white chick?
It's just White Chicks, the movie. Yeah. It's just White Chicks, the movie.
This is a great running joke. I don't know how much it was like built into the script that they were going to do this. This one kind of goes full Borat, where they're at like this fancy gala, and like obviously they had to do a lot of prep work to get into that doesn't really make sense at all in the context of the film. But, you know, you get the three of them in whiteface, just like invading this gala and twerking on stage. I don't know. It's just sort of like a goofy catharsis that I would probably put in A.
Yeah, I agree. It's A. It's like, it doesn't really have anything to do with the film, but it's just a wild time that's just funny. It kind of just like, we just had this like emotional moment where like the siblings have made up, everyone's kind of okay. White chicks.
And I think because it comes at the end after everything's been resolved, it's clear that this is just something that they wanted to do, which, you know, good for them. I'm glad that they found budget to do a white chicks.
Yep, they just full on went for it, and I think it paid off. It's just a great, you know, ending bit right before they do like the little, I guess the behind the scenes of how they did a bunch of the pranks.
Yeah. So what have we learned here now that we've ranked 31 pranks from Bad Trip?
I think we've learned most of them are good, but some of the ones that were more nonsense, just one-off gags, aren't as great for a movie like this. Like, yeah, they're probably good for kind of more like a show, if that's just what the show is, but this wanted to tell a narrative, and all the ones that kind of continued that narrative went up higher.
Yeah, and I think also if they're multi-part, that really ups the ante. Because, you know, it increases the chance that somebody's going to like figure out the gag and yet somehow they don't. But it also like lets that story build naturally and lets random participants shape that story in really interesting ways. And I think also reveals a lot of people who are going to respond in a surprising way that isn't just like, oh shit, but is like putting their lives and livelihoods on the line for these random strangers who are having really bad days. And I think that's really poignant.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this movie, like, as a whole. Like, it was just a wild trip, not a bad trip. Bad trip were some other movies we reviewed. This was a good trip. It was a fun time to watch.
Trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is growing on me more and more as I think about it. And, you know, let's just watch it again next week instead of whatever nonsense we have to watch.
Yeah, I don't actually know what we need to watch.
My guess, without looking at the schedule, is Concrete Cowboy.
That's it.
Idris Elba is a cowboy in, I think, Detroit, modern day Detroit, just out on the streets, and his son is mad that his dad is not a normal dad and he's instead a cowboy dad.
Yeah, I think it's actually based on like a real group in Detroit.
Yeah, and they're badass.
Yeah.
We'll see how the movie is.
Yeah, we will see. There has not been a great track record.
Yeah. But, you know, that's a question for next week. And for now, we can just bask in the glow of Bad Trip.